Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. I'm Adri, and we're going to go through our May and June reading wrap-ups. In the month of May, I read a total of 14 books, and then in June, I read a total of 11 books, putting me at 55 books for the year. We are highly behind schedule if I want to read 150 books for the year. We're like 20 books behind, but at this point, I'm just trying to read. I'm not really caring for my yearly goal as much because I don't want to put myself into a book slump or anything. So if I'm not feeling like reading, I'm not going to read. If I feel like reading, I'm going to read. I just don't want to be in a book slump because it terrifies me, and I just love to read. So we're going to read what we want to read when we want to read it, and just read as many books as we can for the year. So starting off the month of May, I read a total of 6 physical books, 3 audiobooks, and then the rest were all read just on my Kindle. The first book I read this month, or listened to on audio, was You Had Your Chance, Lee Burrows by Piper Rain. I rated this book 4 stars. Overall, it was really good. It follows Lee Burrows and Shayna, if I'm pronouncing her name right. I never know how to pronounce it, even though I did listen to the audio. I already forgot how to pronounce it. They had a little romance back in college. She found out that it was just a bet, broke things off. Years later, she is now working for the team that he plays for. This is a bit of enemies to lovers and second chance romance. The second book I read in the month of May was As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson. This is the 3rd book in the A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, and holy moly, this book was amazing. Honestly, this one was my favorite book in the whole series. I rated this one 5 stars. This was just everything that I was not expecting, and I was here for it all. Okay, so clearly the series follows Pip. She's kind of like a crime investigator. The first book was just her, going back through the crime that happened years ago to this girl and her boyfriend, and she finds out the truth about all of that and exposes a lot of things. The second book, Good Girl, Bad Blood, is months later, now that she had started her podcast on it, and her friend's brother goes missing, and she must find him because the police aren't taking it seriously. This book is right after all of that happened. A lot of events happen that kind of puts Pip in this headspace, like she's kind of terrified. Like it really messes with her mentality. Like her mental state is not 100%. So when she starts seeing clues that she's getting stalked, or she might be getting stalked, she doesn't want to believe it because she just thinks that, this isn't real. Slowly she starts piecing together that she's being stalked, and that it might be a local serial killer from back in the day. The serial killer was prominent back in the day and then kind of went cold turkey. They arrested somebody, and it was supposed to be the end, but it's weird because years later, again, it's happening to her, and the serial killer was arrested, so it doesn't make sense. Did they catch the right guy? Did they catch the wrong guy? Pip has to basically solve her own stalking and eventual kidnapping, and hope that somebody will find her in the nick of time. So halfway through the book, we find out who the stalker / serial killer is, and then the second half of the book is total chaos. It is just it's amazing. That's all I have to say. It is amazing. The second half of the book was just wild. It wasn't anything I expected it to be. It was just great. I highly recommend this book. I highly recommend this series. I'm surprised on how much I love this. I've been waiting to read this forever, and I did, and I just I loved it. I highly recommend the series. The series is definitely a 5-star read, so read it. That's all I have to say. The 3rd book we read in the month of May was Love in the Brain by Allie Hazelwood. I rated this book 4.5 stars. I honestly think this book is better than The Love Hypothesis. This book follows B, can't pronounce her last name, and Levi Ward. B just got a contract to work for NASA, or work with NASA to get this project up and running Bro, I can't even begin to explain on like what is going on, like what they're doing, because like science is not my thing. But you don't need to know science, and you don't need to be a STEM person to like read this book and understand it, because I do believe that Allie did a really great job at like explaining everything. Now, did I understand it all? No, but like that's not the whole importance of the book. It is a big part. I do highly recommend this if you are like a STEM person, or you just like science and anything in general like that. I do recommend it, but you also do not have to be that type of person. You don't have to understand it. Overall, it was still a good book. It was still a good read. Basically, they like each other, but they don't know they like each other, and you know, it's just kind of a bit of a miscommunication trope, because like she thinks he has a wife. He is like really intimidated by her, as in like intimidated by her beauty and her brain, and just like intimidated by her because he thinks she's engaged, she thinks he's married. Lo and behold, they're both single and ready to mingle with each other, but they don't know it. And like he acts weird because like he has these feelings for her, but he thinks she's engaged, and like doesn't want to like rub her the wrong way and like be weird about it or anything like that. But it's just a little bit of a miscommunication trope. Overall, I thought this was really good. I really liked their story. I really liked, you know, how they two came together. The next book I read on my Kindle, which was Lucky Hit by Hannah Cowan. This is the first book in the Swift Hat Trick trilogy. It follows Oakley Hutton. I think they call him Lee, and Octavia, she goes by Ava. They never call her, oh, they hardly ever call her Octavia. But yeah, so it follows Lee and Ava. They are two opposites. They are trying to like just be friends and friend zone each other, basically, from what I remember. But they just have this connection that keeps them like coming back and wanting to be more. She is struggling with like a broken past. They're just like family things that happened. He is focused on hockey and everything with that, because he's now in the big leagues. And yeah, they're just opposites that attract. I read this book 4 stars. I thought it was good. It just wasn't great. But if you like hockey romance, I do highly recommend it. Then I read Between Periods by Hannah Cowan. This is the like novella that comes right after Lucky Hit. I don't think you have to read it, but it does like go into the next book, so I would also recommend reading it, because then you won't be confused going into the second book in the series. So this just like basically follows all of the friends in the friend group, and they are on this vacation together, and just a lot of like stuff kind of like happens, basically. That's all how I can explain it. Again, it was 4 stars. It was just like one of those like novellas, like fillers, to kind of like bridge what happens between the first book and the second book. The next book we read in the month of May was Until I Get You by Claire Contreras. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Originally, I got this book as an ARC, but I was in a really bad reading slump, so I did not read it then, but we did now. Overall, I give this book a 4 stars. This is a dark hockey romance. Honestly, I didn't expect to see a dark hockey romance, so like interesting. I will say that like this isn't one of those like dark romances as like some of the other ones, but I would definitely check trigger warnings. It does talk about like sexual assault, stalking, things like that, so definitely like make sure that this is something you want to read before you read it, because it does have some heavier topics. It was slow to begin with. Like the first half of the book was like a build-up of just like they met and everything, and it didn't start getting good until like the halfway point, when like we find out like everything that happens. And then years later, he like finds her and like wants to be with her. Obviously there's things that were like keeping them apart. Now they're back together, or trying to get back together. Overall, this was a really good read. I do recommend it. Next book that I listened to in the month of May was You Can't Kiss the Nanny, Brady Banks by Piper Rain. This is the second book in the Kingsman Football Stars series. It follows Brady Banks, a single father, and his nanny. What is his nanny's name? I forgot. Anyways, it follows Brady Banks and obviously his nanny. They had this one night stand like months ago, and she wasn't the nanny at the time, but they had this one night stand months ago, and like it was just magical. Apparently, like he was like, oh my gosh, this is like the woman. She kind of just like dipped out, you know. Months later, he needs a nanny because his ex-wife, the mother to his child, is going to do some work in another country. He needs a nanny for when he is playing football and everything. So the ex-wife does all like the hiring and stuff for the nanny. So like he doesn't even know who it is until like she shows up and it's like, oh, you're her, you're the one I can't get out of my head. And it's a bit of a forbidden little romance type. I say forbidden, but like I guess not really, but like should you really date your nanny? But obviously he's like, I'm trying to be with you. She's like, I'm your nanny, bro. I'm your nanny. I'm here for your child, not for you. Forced proximity. It's just, it was so good. I rated this one 5 stars. I thought this one was honestly the best in the series. I don't know. I'm a sucker for a single dad romance, or like, yeah, no, I'm a sucker for a single dad romance. I'm a sucker for like single dads and nannies. I'm a sucker for those. Honestly, I thought this book was really good. I highly do recommend it. Next, I read Blissful Hook by Hannah Cowan. This is the second book in the Swift Hat Trick trilogy series. This follows Gracie Hutton, so Oakley's younger sister, and Tyler, one of Oakley's new bestie boos. Yes, this takes place like years later from the first book. This is definitely brother's best friend slash best friend's brother, a bit of a forbidden romance. They're like a good, like, I'm gonna say they're at least like 5 years apart. I honestly cannot remember, but they're a good like years apart. This one is another like, we shouldn't be together, but we're so attracted to each other that like, what's gonna really stop us? I rated this one 5 stars. I absolutely love this book. I'm a sucker for brothers best friends. I love it. It was great. I highly recommend this. This does have like some little bit of heavier topics because he does have a like kind of bad past. I don't want to say bad past, but like he has a bunch of like family issues. He has a bunch of family issues that kind of like obviously makes him into the bad boy that he is, and the problems of like commitment and things like that. But overall it's really great, and you know, Gracie never gives up on him, even if he may deserve it at times. But yeah, this was like so cute. 5-star read. I recommend this book. Again, I recommend the series. Basically, if I rate it 4 or 5 stars, I recommend it. And I'm going to quit saying I recommend it. No, I'm probably not, but we're pretending. The next book I read was Last Syrah by Haley Brown. This follows 2 best friends who are about to go off to college, or one's about to go off to college, one's about to just like take a little break skis and kind of do her own thing. But they make a bucket list that they want to accomplish before they both go their separate ways and on to like their next chapter in their life. It is a bit of a romance, but it mainly follows like the bucket list and just having that like one last hurrah before starting a new chapter in your life. But there is a bit of romance. Basically, her bestie's older brother. I highly recommend this book. This was a 4-star read. This was a 4-star read because like this is very YA, and I'm not the biggest like YA romancy person. But like overall this was like really good, and I highly do recommend this if you love YA and romance. Obviously there's like no spice, but it is super cute. It's a super good book. It is like a perfect summer read, and also like if you're a Swiftie, I recommend this. There are some Swiftie references. Then we read Things We Hide from the Light by Lucy Score. This is the second book in the Knock Me Out series. This follows Nash and Lena. So Nash is the brother of Knox, and Lena was Knox's like ex-girlfriend. It's supposed to just be like a little hookup situation, you know, friendsies with the benefitsies. I absolutely love this book. This book was a 5 stars. I think this one might have been a little bit better than the first book, to be honest. Which is saying a lot because I absolutely love the first book. But I think this one was just like a little bit better. It was a little bit better. I highly recommend this book. I really recommend this series. The next book I read was the final book in the Swift Hat Trick trilogy. This is Vita Blindside. This follows Adam White, one of the friends he's in the friend group, and Scarlett, I think is her name. Anyways, Adam is a single dad. Scarlett just moved back to town after an injury. She is living with her mom, trying to take care of her mom, who happens to have like Alzheimer's, dementia, some kind of like disease like that. And she takes a job with him at his training facility, and yeah, so it's kind of been a like little forbidden a little bit of a forbidden workplace romance. But this was a good book. I rated it 4 stars. Again, it wasn't my favorite, but it was good, and I highly recommend the series. Then we listened to Over My Brother's Dead Body, Chase Andrews. This is the 3rd book in the King's Football Stars series. This follows Chase Andrews. He's one of the football players on the team. And what is her name? I can't remember her name. I'm so terrible. And then the female main character, whatever her name may be, that it's like slipping my mind. She is the sister to one of the football players on the team. I think Miles. He doesn't have a book, but she is the sister to one of the football players on the team. So again, it's one of those like brother's best friend romances. It's a grumpy sunshine. Let me say that. This is a grumpy sunshine. He's very grumpy. She's very sunshine. Decided to take this like pet sitting job in the town or in the city that her brother works in because she's fresh off of this engagement. And she just needs a change of pace, and she's on break from her work, so she decided to do that. It happens to be the same building and actually right across the hall from her brother's football player friend. I rated this one to 4.5 stars. I thought it was really good. Again, the nanny one was my favorite, but this one was good. The series was great. I do recommend it. The next book that I read in the month of May was Reckless by Elsie Silver. I got this book as in an ARC, and I was freaking obsessed. I love this series. I love her other series. I love Elsie Silver. I will read anything that Elsie Silver writes. This book by far is my favorite book in the Chestnut Spring series as of this moment. I rated this book 5 stars. Theo and Winter, their story was just like amazing. First of all, if you don't follow me on Goodreads, you should definitely follow me there. I will have that linked in the description. Also follow me on Instagram because I do post some of my reviews on Instagram as well. Follow me there. It's all going to be linked in the description. But this is what I said on Goodreads. I said, OMG, OMG, this book definitely took the favorite spot in the series. Sorry, Daddy Cade. You were great, but Theo was better. Theo stole my heart and melted it. Like, why is he so perfect? The dynamic between the two was absolutely amazing. Theo and Winter are perf. Also, Theo as a dad, the hot, you know, the emoji, everything about this book was absolutely giving. If that doesn't say it all, I don't know what else will. Read the series, read the book. I just say it was amazing. And to finish off the month of May, we read People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. I wasn't a fan of this one. I rated this one 3 stars, 3.5 at the most. Yeah, it was good. It just wasn't great. It wasn't giving. A lot of miscommunication, a lot of just like, I don't know what it was about this, but like, it just, I don't know. I feel like a lot of things could have just happened differently and happened better, and it, yeah, that's all I really have. This is a like friends to lovers, or friends to somewhat strangers to lovers. Okay, then we're going to try and quickly go through the books that I read in the month of May. I only read 2 physical books, and the rest were all on my Kindle. So the first book I read was The Goal by Elle Kennedy. This is the 4th book in the Off-Campus series. This one follows John Tucker and Sabrina James. I rated this book 4.5 stars. I thought it was good. I thought it was a great The Score is definitely my favorite, but this one's a close second. You know where I'm going with it. One Night Stand, surprise baby, you know, yeah, that happens. Then we're going to kind of go quickly through the next couple books I read. So I read the Hennington Brothers series by Corinne Michaels. The first book is Say You'll Stay. This follows Zach Hennington and Presley. They were dating when they were younger. Something happened. He went off and played baseball. She was like, I'm staying here, going to college. So they broke up. She quickly got with another man's. Kind of quickly-ish got with another man's. It was her bestie's brother. They got married, have kids and everything, and he couldn't take it. Something happens. Check trigger warnings. Something happens. You know, he dies. Okay, she's forced to move back in with her parents and move back to the hometown. She thinks that Zach is still playing baseball because she's not keeping up with him, and no one's telling him, or no one's telling her about him and everything because she doesn't want to know. She runs into Zach, and let's just say second chance romance. They end up rekindling the flame. Overall, it was a 5-star read. It was super cute. Then we read the second book in the Hennington Brothers series. This is Say You Want Me. This follows Wyatt Hennington and Angie. Angie is Presley's best friend. Obviously, Wyatt is one of the Hennington brothers. They had a bit of a one-night stand. You know where I'm going with that. Surprise, baby. And we read Sam Yours. This is the third book in the Hennington Brothers series. This one follows Trent Hennington, the oldest Hennington brother, and Grace. They loved each other. They love each other. You know, they just can't make it work. He has some issues. He has some trauma and stuff like that. And it's kind of like pushing him away when things start to go right with her. And he, like, she always goes back to him, and now she's like, no, I'm done. I'm done with you. Like, I'm done with this. I'm done loving you and you not loving me back. He does love her. He just, like, is terrified to say it because of shit that happened. So it all took her dating someone else for him to be like, I want to be with you for the rest of my life. I love you. Like, he starts dealing with his issues, and yeah, it's super cute. I will say this one was also a 4-star read. I just didn't like how long it took Trent to figure things out, and I kind of felt bad for Grace for just always going back to him when he didn't deserve it. He was a turd. He was a freaking turd. The final book in the Hennington Brothers series, this is also like a crossover with the Masters and Mercenaries collection by Lexi Blake. This is Say You Won't Let Go. This one follows Cooper, Presley's brother, and Emily, who is one of Presley's and Grace's like friends. She is a singer. He's always had a little crush on her and everything. So when he is in the same town as her where she is singing, you know, he meets up with her and everything, and they kind of have a little bit of a, like a, I don't want to say one night stand because I don't think they do anything like that on the first night, but they definitely hang out, and you know, admit that they have feelings for each other. And you know, he stays a little longer to like kind of just like be with her and everything. He's like, I want to be with you. We can make this like distance work. She gets a stalker. He wants to rush back. She's like, no, like it's gonna be okay. So he hires security and everything for her. Yeah, it was good. It wasn't great. It was literally my least favorite book in the series, and I don't think you have to read it because again, he's not a Hennington brother, so like, does he really count? But like, if you want to read about Cooper, Presley's brother, read it. It was good. Wasn't great. I would say like 3.5 stars. The next book we read was The Legacy by Elle Kennedy. I rated this one 3.5 stars. This basically just follows each of the off-campus couples years later. They each have their own little story. So we have a wedding, a proposal, elopement, and a surprise pregnancy. It was okay. It wasn't great. Like, I just feel like it should have been like an extended epilogue instead of like a whole book. And I don't think that I don't think she needed to add in like a little third act, not breakup, but like a third act conflict, you know. Like I feel like it was kind of like unnecessary. These next two books I'm so excited to talk to you about because I absolutely love them, and I can't believe it took me this long to read them. But we read Next of Kin by Hannah Bonham Young. This is the first book in the series. This follows Chloe and Warren. Basically, they both want custody of their siblings, but they both have something that's holding them back. Hers is technically, she's not financially stable because her job is a freelance job, and his issue is he doesn't have like a home, like a home with a room for his brother. Since he is a teenager, since his brother is a teenager, he has to have his own bedroom. So they go into this like program within like the social services where they basically live together to help each other out in getting their siblings. They basically have to do this for so many months, and then they will reevaluate the situation. So basically Warren moves in with Chloe, who lives in an apartment, a 3-bedroom apartment. Basically Warren has his own room, and then the brother gets his own room, and then her and the baby have their room. And that's all that it was supposed to be, was strictly like we're helping each other out, like we're here for our siblings, not for each other. But their connection is unreal, and like they just cannot not be together. Secondly, we read Next to You. This is the second book in the series. This one follows Lane, who is Chloe's friend, and Matt, who is Warren's friend, or technically Chloe and Warren's friend. Basically, they're two friends that, you know, they have a connection. They like each other. They just don't want to admit it. She has commitment issues, and you know, he will do anything and everything for the people he loves and cares about. She one night drunkenly buys a bus and asks for his help, and he helps. And you know, they develop a little like frenzies with benefits thing. They both have to kind of like go through some things to understand and end up being together. That was a 4.5-star read. It was so cute. I loved it. I love both the books in the series. It was great. The next 3 books I read were all in the Willow Creek Valley series. This book was Return to Us by Corinne Michaels. This one follows Grayson, Parkerson, and Jessica. This is a second chance romance. If you read the Arrowwood Brothers series, in the last book following Jacob Arrowwood, if you haven't read it, here's a spoiler. Be careful. Listen at your own risk. Jacob was in a plane accident. Jessica was the flight attendant on the plane, so she was also in the accident. They all ended up living, like everyone in the plane, but she had some trauma, some like brain trauma. She had like a TBI and things, so she had to go to her hometown and heal and everything like that. She doesn't really want to run into him and see him because she thinks that his life's going great. He has a kid, so he's a single dad. This is a single dad romance. It is so cute, and I love how like everything like pushed them back together. They were definitely meant to be, and I highly recommend this. This one was a 5-star read. Then we read Could Have Been Us. This follows Stella Parkerson and Jack Grayson's best friend. This is another brother's best friend romance. This one was another like 5-star read for me. I thought it was super cute, and a lot of stuff happened. I don't know what all to say, but like let's just say something happened 12 years ago, and they just kind of really fought their feelings for so freaking long, and it's sad because they could have been together all these years ago if they would have just like stopped fighting them and just freaking be together. It was super cute. I loved it. And then the last book that I read in the month of June was A Moment for Us. This is the 3rd book in the series. This one follows Josh Parkerson and Delia. Delia is Jessica's best friend. She has been pining for this man for like ever. She's been in love with this man forever. He can't say the same thing because he's much older than her, but like when she became of age, she was like, kind of like reciprocated, like, oh my gosh, I like you. But yeah, this is a like Frenzies with benefits. Here we go again. Surprise baby romance. There is a lot of trauma that happens in this one. Definitely check trigger warning. This one was really good. I liked it. I gave it 4 stars though because it wasn't my favorite. I think Joshua could have done a lot better and not been as much of an ass. It was good. It was great. It's a good series. I do recommend it. Those were all of the books I read in the month of May and the month of June. I'm sorry that this video is a bit longer, but I really wanted to do a May and June wrap up for you all. We will try and get back to a regular scheduled programming of doing 1 video per month instead of doing 2, unless one month I like only read a couple books, then I can see me combining them. But the fact that I read 14 books and 11 books between the 2 months, that's a lot of books to go through in one video, and I talk a lot, so it would just be better if they were separate. Again, I'm sorry that this video was a bit longer, but I really wanted to tell you about all the books that I read in the last 2 months because most of them are books that I highly recommend you read. Anyways, those are all the books that I read the month of May and the month of June. I hope you all found some really good book recs, and I hope to see you all in my next video. Bye guys!